a brief introduction of us, the speakers. I am senior advisor here at Innocode, and I manage most of our Swedish clients that use the Citizen app. And with me, I also have Bjarte Falck Olsen, who is our CEO. And Bjarte, I think you can take it away quite directly and speak about us a little bit before we get into the nitty-gritty of the Citizen app.
Thank you, Lova. Thanks for the introduction and welcome everyone. We're really happy to have an international audience on this. First of all, it's good to know who you're talking to. Innocode is a small, I would say, small organization, Nordic Ukrainian organization. We have employees in Norway, Sweden, and the majority in Lviv in the Western Ukraine. We have had our technical setup in Ukraine for many years, more than 10 actually. And we're proud to say that we are able to keep a good delivery under the current circumstances. We do work with both service deliveries to other companies, but focusing more and more on our product line for local media and for local communities or cities or local governments, if you will. Citizen app, the product that we are going to focus on today, is becoming a flagship product, I would say, for us. We have about 50 Nordic municipalities on the platform today. And we're going to go through today the basic idea, the basic philosophy of our solution, and why we think it's important that local governments find even better channels to reach their citizens. Let's jump into it. We're going to start off with some sort of strategic entry points to this discussion. And please let us know if you do have questions in the chat, and we'll pick them up as we go. First of all, we see that at least in the Nordics, which is our main experience, I guess, local governments have been trusting a few channels for their communication with their citizens for many years. First of all, the website, of course, is the main inbound channel where the citizen do know that they can go to look for their services and the stuff they need to get done. It is indeed an inbound channel. It does demand quite a bit of initiative from the citizen to visit a site and look for what they're looking for. So it's not much of a channel for outbound news content or sort of preparedness notifications at all, is it? Secondly, at least in the Nordics, and I know I have been talking to a lot of counties and such in the UK and Ireland too, and Denmark and such. And it is much of the same pattern, I would say. We have been trusting Meta and social media for many years. We are seeing that its effect is not getting better, you could say. And there are quite a few perspectives to consider when trusting social channels for your communication with the citizens. We talk about channel credibility and trust. In many cases, Facebook are proving they could be a channel with a lot of different content that can't really be trusted. And what does that do to our messaging from public sector? We strategically, we also touch upon a point that we call local invisibility, and that's the basic idea that in our local communities, there is no aggregated channel for visibility for everything that happens in our local communities. So that means the football team, that means the cultural institutions, that means the library, everyone, they work in their separate digital channels, often Meta-based, Facebook-based, with their followers. That means we have all these local, very narrow channels for visibility. This is a problem because we don't really reach our audience with local events, with local news from the whole civil society. And we see that this does not do good things to the local engagement. We'll look into that in more detail later. Further, what we call the digital relationship of local governments with their citizens, it is quite infrequent in most cases. We see in the Nordics that an average citizen will visit the municipal website 1 to 2 times per year, in average. And we see with that kind of infrequent relationship, it is hard to drive really meaningful impact campaigns and change behavior and try to affect how the citizen relates to the city. So we would like to present a solution that increases this frequency and makes us a part of the everyday life of our citizen, even in digital channels. And digital channels, of course, today, 2025, meaning their phone, right? A fourth strategic perspective that is important to most countries and most local governments these days, increasingly, you could say, is the preparedness perspective. We are seeing a very heightened interest in this perspective in the Nordics, due to, of course, political situation globally, due to weather changes, due to climate changes, due to more extreme weather. We see it in the Nordics, we see it all over the world that these situations arise several times a year, actually, where we need to communicate with our citizens now, not in 2 days, not in 3 hours, or not according to Facebook algorithms, but we need to reach them now with something happening now, and any delay will make the message irrelevant, really. So the sort of the timing perspective and the preparedness perspective is going to be important here. All right. First of all, this is in Swedish, isn't it? But this is something that is being raised quite a lot in the Nordics at the moment. The dependency on third-party channels, so Meta in this case. This is one of the major newspapers. They did a series of articles on this this fall in Sweden, how Swedish municipalities are buying boosts and traffic from Meta to quite large sums, actually. And of course, this raises a question: is this where our tax money should go? Should they be sort of put into sponsoring content with a US third-party channel to reach your neighbor or your local audience? This is a question I think we need to take seriously, and I know most local governments in the Nordics do now. Facebook presence is still important to local governments, but it is being questioned more and more. And of course, the channel itself is not going to reach all of our target audiences anymore, because we see that the younger generation is not really active in this channel and so on. So it's about choosing to build presence in channels you can control long term, sorry. It's about not building your house on rented land, if you will, as a metaphor for this. It's about actually building your own channels that you can trust and that you can control long term. We talked about local invisibility, and this is a survey we did a few years back in the Nordics. We asked more than 2,000 citizens in the Nordics about local visibility. We asked them, do you find it important to know what's going on in your local community? And almost 70% do find it important. And we also asked, do you find it simple to get an overview over what's going on locally, events, political decisions, and so on? And very few do. And that's due to what we discussed in the beginning, that local communication is very fragmented. It is published on a global platform, Meta or similar, so it is becoming increasingly fragmented, and we can't really get an overview of what's happening locally. And that is a problem because it's hard to engage. I usually do an example here. Lova's heard it before, so she's a bit tired of it. But I do have a 6-year-old at home. I do have a library. The local library is about 500 meters from my door. And every second week, they do children's book readings of new children's books. And I never know when they're on. The expectation is that I'm going to go to the library website every once a week to check when these readings are on. And as you all know, that expectations that I'm going to look for stuff is not really realistic. So if we can just try to turn that around, and I could tell the library, I want your stuff, and they could push it to me instead, then we will be getting closer to me going to these readings with my son. It's quite simple. It's not sort of complex ideas and stuff, but it's simple problems that we can solve actually. And then the third perspective that we mentioned, do we want to be a part of our citizens' everyday life? I think most of us would answer yes to that. And we need to look at channels where we can actually build both this sort of softer relationship, try to engage people in our local communities. We see that this is a major problem in the Nordics, that people don't know, so it's hard to engage. So we need to be able to turn these communication perspectives around. I'm repeating myself a little bit, but we can't always expect the audience to come to us. We need to try to turn that around and put the main responsibility of communication and messaging with the sender for the messages to actually reach the citizens, I think. And this is the expectation of 2025 citizen society, I would say, that information comes to us, we don't have to look for it. And then, of course, what happens in these situations? How would your county or your local government act when you have this kind of the crisis in your community, and when there's a fire in the garbage station close by? This is sort of classic stuff that happens. We had the storm Amy coming into both UK and the Nordics this fall. Electricity was down for several days. A lot of trees came down. There are these sort of this notion of preparedness on different levels. I mean, preparedness doesn't necessarily have to be war. It doesn't necessarily have to be these major things. There is this scale of preparedness that we need to work on, and most local governments will have channels for worst case scenario. We will have air alarms or that kind of channels. But for this scale, what happens if there's a tree across the road? What happens if on this scale, how do we message our citizens? Probably through social media in most cases, but we would argue that we need to find a more direct channel that we can actually control, timing-wise and everything. This case is from Botkyrka, just south of Stockholm, where I'm located. A few years back, they didn't have an app, they didn't have anything. There was a fire in the garbage station with poisonous, toxic smoke in the community, and they ended up having to sit down with a list of phone numbers and call the houses nearby. It's of course very resource demanding in many ways. All right. So usually when we talk about an app from the local government, we get a question back from the potential client. But how do we get people to download this thing? Our audience might be interested in the local community, but are they really interested in sort of official messaging from the city council or from the municipality? Some might be very engaged, but many are not. So we need to find a level of high interest content that we can input onto these platforms, and I think that's what differentiates our platform from many other citizen apps. That we like to look at this as a distributed tool where we can input content from many sources to build a sort of base of local community content, to build a high interest platform, and for the local officials to put their messaging on top of this. So we need to build this will to having this app in the phone, and the main entry for that in our tool is what we call decentralized content, aggregating the power. We talked about these narrow channels before. What if we aggregate these channels into one? We suck in the content from the football team, we suck in the content from the cultural institutions and from the library. We put it in the same place and we give it to the citizen. That would make an attractive platform to me, because then I could get a reminder when the reading is on, when the football team plays their matches, and so on. I could actually engage in what's happening in my local community. So these two supporting tools that are mentioned here, community events and community news, are important sort of pillars in the building of this local channel with Nordic municipalities. So we have created a tool. We're going to look at it more in detail. That where we can either automatically or by manual posts can invite all the players in the local community to push their events or their news content into this platform. And then in the platform, the citizen can say, okay, I'm interested in the football, I'm not interested in the library, and they can package their own local relevance in a way. In this, we've mentioned the community news in this overview, the community events, the personalization. Also, the always updated means that most 95% of content on these platforms is aggregated, from existing content. So we do not have to create new content every day for the app, because we know that local governments don't have the resources or the time to do this. So we pull it in from the website, from social media, from the football team, from the cultural institutions, and we package it for the citizen. On this, we can put a push tool, meaning we can reach all of our app citizens, or we can reach segments, geographic or interest-wise. And we put integrations. We're going to look at some examples. And integrations would be data that could be communication. So roads, traffic, water levels, you name it. We put these data integrations and try to create communicative interfaces. And in this, we want to create this loyalty so that you have an app that you use every week, so that we can put important messaging on top of it. The calendar tool we mentioned here, here's how it looks. It's a supporting tool to the app. It's integrated natively with the app. And it also has the web interface that most of our Nordic clients use on their website. So we collect events from all players that we trust in the local community. We show them in the app, and we show the same data on a website. Quite easy, quite well integrated, quite easy to set up. And we have a calendar solving a problem. We know that is updated all the time, because we have many of our clients that have 20, 30, 40 different organizers in the local community playing in content into this surface. In the same way, with a community news tool like this, we can ask the civil society to participate, or we can even put it like Sunnfjord here on the west coast of Norway have been doing. They put it in the hands of the local municipal services. So the senior center in this part of the town and the youth center in this part of town, they have a communication need with a narrow target group in the municipality. They've usually been communicating this through their own pages in social media, which is a bit shaky. The communication department might think, because we don't want them to do independent stuff. So we put this news tool in their hands, and we give the citizen the possibility to follow their local services. Yeah. So I follow my senior center in my part of town if I'm senior. I'm not yet, but soon. And I follow the youth club for my son, yeah? So I get these news, these sort of this is where the relevance is, yeah? If you can find these narrow segments with high relevance, instead of communicating broadly with everything the same to everyone. That's the key. All right. Further, what hasn't been introduced but is being introduced pretty soon is that we're introducing in the app an offline mode. So if you can't get connected to the internet, there's still some information. This is primarily a preparedness feature that we're launching. So information that we want the citizen to be able to get to, even if the internet is down. And you could say, well, our mobile internet is always going to be live. But just coming back to the storm Amy a few months back, parts of Norway uh, didn't have internet for 3 or 4 days because, all the trees went down and all the lines went down, and it was crazy. So in that situation, how do you want your citizen to get to information? And in this feature that we're launching end of the year, you can put some content that is going to be offloaded into the phone, so that even in an offline in a state of offline, you could get to some content, being key telephone numbers to the municipality, being maybe information on where to gather in a moment of crisis. Lova, if you let me know if I talk too fast or anything, if there are questions, yeah?
Yeah, I will let you know. I think you're good so far. I have a few questions. We can take it in the end.
Okay, thank you. Uh, okay, we also talked about this data thing. So how can we create both channel loyalty and sort of good communication out of the data we already have? Because we know that through IoT, through different sort of structures, most local communities do have data that is useful for the citizen. That can be traffic data, yeah? So, okay, I live outside of Stockholm. Just by a glance, by a quick glance every morning, can I have a look in the app to see if there's a queue into the city today? Okay, I could do this by doing a search in Google Maps. Yeah, we all know that. But do I do it every morning if I go to work? We try to facilitate and communicate this kind of data so that the citizens can make better choices. If I see that this road into the city from where I live, that it's red today, maybe I choose to look into the trains instead. Maybe that's a better option for me, or even riding a bike. It's only 6 kilometers to go, so maybe I make these choices based on data instead of just my own ideas. We also launching in the beginning of next year these data tiles that are flexible visuals of data, because we know that in different communities there are data sets that are more or less relevant. In this case, in the Alta, in the north of Norway, there's a big river, and the water levels of the river is really important because it can get dangerous, and it can affect people's businesses, people's everyday life the day the water levels increase dramatically. So we pull an API from existing data on the water levels. We pull it into this interface, and we can show the citizens in real time how is the river doing today. So in a preparedness perspective, very important, of course. So this kind of data, creating loyalty to the channel, creating usefulness without any work, without any content work on a daily basis. Okay, a few strategic thoughts and a few cases. First of all, a case that isn't our own. This is Stockholm. This is the city I live in. And many cities do have apps, yeah. Most cities do have what we call one service apps. So each app does one thing. In Stockholm's case, they have one for what is called often Fix Your Street in the UK. So where you report errors or report stuff physically in your local community. They have another app for parking payments. They have another app for school platforms, so school information on schools and stuff. They have one for museums, and they have one app, single app for air quality in the city. So the question is, for me as a citizen, would I download one app for each service? And the second question is, what happens to an app if I don't in my phone if I don't use it for 4 weeks. In most cases, an app that is not in use will be offloaded from phones because we have a limited space in our phone. So that means strategically with apps, you need to consider if we're building an app, we believe it's going to be used at least once a month, or else build it as a web service, I would say. So for air quality in Stockholm, do I check this on a daily basis, on a weekly basis? No, I don't. And the same with these sort of fix your streets apps, because there's a lot of them. And do I report stuff to the municipality or to the local government more than once a month? I hope not, because then there's a lot of holes in the road or bumps in the road. So I mean, we need to combine these services into one app, giving us what would that give us? That would give us a volume on the app because some people would be interested in parking, some would be interested in fix your street, some would be interested in the air quality, but it would give us an aggregated volume of downloads. And that means we can communicate on that app. If we have it in 3, 4, 5 separate apps, how are we going to use these apps for outbound communication? We do believe in this hyperlocal perspective that we have mentioned here before. This is Oslo in Norway, the capital. It's a pretty big city in Nordic terms, about 1 million citizens or so. We see that to create relevance here, we're not building the Oslo app as such. We are building the My District app. It's called Min Bydel in App Store. It is, first of all, in the onboarding, asking the citizens to say, I live in this district or this neighborhood of the city. And based on that, we build this community content that we have been discussing. We build this community content from the hyperlocal perspective, because in a big city, everybody's going to know what happens in the big venues. Yeah, they have a lot of money, they put it into boosting stuff on Facebook, but nobody's going to know what happens in their local cultural centers. So we need to focus this on a local to create this local engagement. We need to really focus on what we call hyperlocal relevance. Sandefjord is one of our first clients. They have been working on this platform for almost 5 years, actually, and they have reached. There's about 70,000 citizens in the town or the city of Sandefjord. It's on the east coast of Norway. And by now we have more than 40,000 downloads, and we reach more than 50% of the households in Sandefjord. This, of course, gives them a unique channel to reach their citizens. And how did they do this? It's a mix of everything that we have been discussing, actually. It's the local, hyperlocal content, the events, it is the data, it is a long-term strategy. We all know this is not going to happen overnight. We're not gonna get an adoption of this app overnight. It is long-term. We all know this. So I think this persistence in strategy and by owning your own channel, this is really the sort of the key to success in these cases. Södertälje, of course, we had a look at some screenshots before. They have been focusing a lot on data, data and data services, data-driven services, you could say, that are available. That gives them an app interface that is sort of doesn't require much daily sort of editorial work at all, because it's pretty data driven. So it's transport, it's bike maps, it's pollen warnings hyper locally. It's sort of a daily usefulness that creates this important loyalty and gives us the opportunity to build communication on top. Västerås, about 12 months ago, the city of Västerås launched their new app, Mitt Västerås, My Västerås, if you will, based on a broader strategy, much similar to Sandefjord, really. They have been building more than 30,000 downloads in just 12 months. And this, of course, just by doing this, they have a much stronger channel to their citizens than ever before. They have good frequency and usage. They have very good interest in these local, hyper-local news feeds that I mentioned. So from the municipal services, the senior center, and so we are getting feedback from, especially I would say, from the senior citizens. This is their most important channel to knowing what's actually going on, to knowing what's actually for lunch at the senior center today. Simple stuff, hyper-local, makes it relevant to the citizens, really. So just to come back to sort of an overview of this, there are a few different ways of taking part in these environments. Most of the examples that I have been mentioning today are what we call white label apps. That means we're invisible, and the city publishes the app in App Store and Google Play in their own name. So it's totally white label. Innocode is pretty much invisible. It is being perceived as the city itself is the sender of this. There is also a shared environment. We have been launching this in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark now. It is of course more price efficient because it's a generic app in App Store. It's called Citizen App, typically in a local language, and from there you can choose as a city, citizen, you can choose your local government or your city. And from there, the content environments are exactly the same as in the white label solution. So this is, of course, is something that we're launching as we see that many citizens have the need to know about more than just one municipality. They maybe have a holiday home in one place, and then they live in another place, and then they have their children, grown-up children, in a third municipality. So we see that there is quite a value to putting all of this information in the same platform. So which direction you choose from this is typically a bigger city with a stronger brand will choose to build their own app. And typically in Norway, Sweden, we have a lot of smaller municipalities with limited resources. And this is, of course, a more price efficient or a cheaper way to get things out there, really. So yeah, this is some screenshots from the Norwegian and Swedish shared environments, really. And we see that the push notifications, of course, are just the same functionality if it's white label or if it's a shared environment. We also see quite a bit of interest in this direction of entering this mindset in a way. Many municipalities in the Nordics do have these Fix Your Street apps that does only that. We see that actually, I think 3 of our latest cases are coming out of that, where they see that we have this app. If we replace it by an app that can do more things, we start with the Fix Your Street functionality, and then we build gradually on that. We can build long-term value on this. So we want to create an outbound starting from our Fix Your Street functionality, which is already very important to the municipality. All right. So in specifics, we are looking at Ireland and UK, and that means to enter a market, we need somebody that thinks this is of interest, and we're willing to really. Cost is always an issue, of course. But for the first 6 months, we're really willing to work with cities and counties in the UK and with in Ireland with sort of an open discussion on costs long term. First steps important for us is to see is there a need, is there some sort of a proof of concept in these markets for this, is there an interest. And this is the offering that we are making. Our hope and our belief is that we have onboarded 3 to 5 clients on pilots in both Ireland and UK. The dialogue so far seems to prove that there is an interest in this. And so we would like to onboard you at least before the end of the first quarter next year. We are willing to offer this without any costs until summer, so end of second quarter. And then we are looking at 50% discounted prices long term for these. And why do we do this? Well, of course, we need cases to sell to this market. So for our commercial sort of direction, this is what we need to get going. We all now know how public sector works. We want to see somebody doing it before we do. So this is what we're trying to achieve, really. So, Lova, do you have any questions
Yes,
or
I do,
anything
or
input?
we do.
Yeah.
We have one that is about local media and our app. We have someone with us from the US who said, Innocode has inspired me to talk about a model of what I call transparency as a service here in the US. My hope is that this can be a service offered by local news media as a partner for the municipality. Is that model being followed anywhere among Innocode's localities? Do you know if we have any case that where the local media works together with the municipalities?
I think it's a very interesting question because we are trying to, I mean, historically, the partnership between local media and the municipalities in the Nordics, I wouldn't say it's been complicated, but there is this sort of, I mean, because the local media is also in charge of sort of, what would you call this, of a critical view of the local governments, yeah. So I think it's very interesting because we are working with local media, as you know, too, and we have been trying the same approach with local media. We think that local media in the Nordics and globally uh, to too much of an extent have been locking themselves into paywalls the last 10 years or so. So they have been sort of removing their relevance really to the broader audience locally. They have been missing out on being the local notice board that we used to be back then. So we are trying to launch this model with local newspapers too. So maybe not as an app, but maybe as part of their website that like a widget, if you will, coming from this side that just collects a web-based widget that collects this sort of local content, both from the local government, but even from the community as described before. So we are trying these models, and we do see some interest on cooperation between local media and municipalities. But we actually don't have a live case on it yet. But I think it's a really interesting direction.
Yeah, I agree. I think we had something in Ukraine, but I'm not really sure. I don't know
Yeah,
enough about
yeah,
the case, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay, we have a question asking for clarification on the shared app topic. Are you suggesting that you would develop new functionality for various things like fix your street individually, or just point to existing web apps for these things, or a mixture of the two?
Yeah, I guess Ben, it's a mixture. I mean, in many cases, we start off with what we call a simple web embed of these services. So mostly when it comes to these sort of fix the streets interfaces, they are just a map really that locates you where you are, so that you can open a dialogue and you can input your report or something. So it's quite easy to integrate. And so I wouldn't say we have an exact plan of developing that kind of fix the street functionality on our own, but we do work with, as a first step in these cooperations, it's an embed, but it's quite easy also to build more complex integrations with these tools, so that you could probably push something from the app when your errand has been fixed, or that kind of functionality. So, and also on your question, for functionality in a broader perspective, we are all the time working together with our clients to further develop features that are needed. This offline project that we're doing now is an example. It's been partly financed by the city of Västerås, And we do these sort of development projects all the time, I would say, based on the actual needs of one or hopefully even several of our clients at the same time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Bjarte. We always want to see that we develop the app in a direction where several municipalities can benefit of each other's needs, or how to say it.
Yeah, yeah.
So we develop something for Västerås and we make it available for everyone because usually we have the same needs. We have one more question and then I think we have to wrap it up. Are there opportunities in the app for citizens to share their own information with each other? If so, how do you find moderation?
Well, we haven't built the social media, so we don't think we want to build a social media because it's a bit too complex and it's or not too complex technically, but we see that the moderation, as you mentioned, is quite hard, and often, as we see in community Facebook groups with local governments, the tone, those who are negative or quite often get a very high loud voice in these contexts, I would say. So we do want citizen dialogue, but we want it to be pretty moderated and pretty sort of initiated by the city or the citizen. So we do have a lot of examples where we integrate citizen dialogue tools like Decidim or Citizen Lab, I think they're called. Go Vocal at the moment in Europe. They changed their brand, I think. So we do want to integrate these things. We also have actually an innovation project with Sandefjord that I mentioned before on creating the good old-fashioned sort of forum functionality into the app that you might remember from the internet, I don't know, 10 or 15 years back, where you actually went into a forum. There was a question posted by a moderator that you could discuss in a very structured sort of thread, but you as a citizen couldn't, or an individual can't create these issues. But we want to keep it quite structured, quite a bit far from Facebook pages, to be honest, because we do see a lot of problems with the moderation and the sort of the tonality of these channels. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's also a question of how open you are to letting people into like the tools like having community that
Yeah.
could be used as a almost like a personal blog if you want to get down to the
Yeah.
if we're talking like a media company like to the citizen itself because you can register and then
Yeah.
as the owner of the community tool you can say okay this person can post without moderation or this user has to be moderated before they post anything. So I guess that's how
Yeah, I
broadly
mean,
you use the tools.
yeah, I mean, there is a very distributed structure in these content tools. Yes, so you could theoretically let this down on an individual level and let everyone have their voice. If you want to create this super democratic digital channel, but as you mentioned, it's moderation wise, it's could be a challenge with those volumes. So probably you would look into representatives of different organizations to be able to post their stuff and that kind of structure, I think.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I think we reached the time for today. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to Bjarte or me or Morten. He's not here today, but you can talk to him as well. He's nice. He's Norwegian. Otherwise, very nice to see you all in here. And we do these webinars few times a month, and not just this topic, but in different topics. And sometimes we invite guests. So keep your eyes open or your inbox open, and we will let you know when we have our next webinar. Otherwise, thank you so much for today, and see you next time. A brief introduction of us, the speakers. I am senior advisor here at Innocode, and I manage